Mega Evolutions were very silly. In order to establish a brand new mechanic for Generation 6, Game Freak developed, lo and behold, Mega Evolution. It was meant to give many Pokemon a new breath of fresh air. This is also sort of the beginning of Game Freak having gimmick mechanic in each game, especially after Generation 6. Now, I don't hate Mega Evolution, and I'm not gonna lie. It is a selling point to a Pokemon game, is trying to see which Pokemon get these new mechanics. I've made a video previously on how bad some of these Pokemon can be with Mega Evolution and how it kind of works counterintuitively, while also the exact opposite is just as true. There was a large majority of these Pokemon that were super busted. And that is one of the main issues here, is a lot of these Pokemon are unbalanced. Some people would be begging for certain mons to be banned in Uber. My favorite Pokemon of all time received a Mega Evolution. Blaziken in Gen 5 received Speed Boost as a hidden ability. And during Generation 6, they said, you know what? Let's create a new version of Blaziken that is stronger, hits harder, and is also faster, and give it Speed Boost. Makes them gain speed every single turn. A very popular set for Speed Boost Blaziken was, whether under a Mega or not, is to use Protect, gain the Speed Boost, and now you're faster than your opponent most likely, and then you try to sweep. Mega Blaziken was this even better at cleaning up in the later game and finishing off opponents, and I really only touched the basics on how you could run Blaziken. You could even run him on a Sun team and boost his fire type moves, and make those incoming Flare Blitz hit even harder, baby. You want to make a Pokemon with 160 base attack hit even harder? You can use Swords Dance to boost your attack. The main flaws of Mega Blaziken is he's really frail, just like the regular version. He gets walled out by certain water types. You have to manage to kill him before he sets up, or else he's probably going to sweep your team. And I'm incredibly biased because yes, Mega Blaziken is busted, but even I knew how busted he was, and he's my favorite Pokemon. There's not a lot of consistent ways of beating Mega Blaziken once he gets going, and sure, the Mega Stone takes up a slot. He can't use Focus Sash to try to gain a free Swords Dance, but in my opinion, Mega Blaziken's base attack and speed stat were worth it enough to make him Uber. I mean, High Jump Kick hits really hard. He's Blaziken, he's super frail. Depending on the set that you're using, he can sometimes damage himself to death. So that was a way of beating him down, was try to simply get him walled out, or bring in a Pokemon with Iron Barbs or something like that. I do love his design though, it was a really cool. Mega Lucario essentially strapped with adaptability, which basically gives Lucario a same type attack bonus for 2 instead of 1.5, which means his steel and fighting moves are gonna hit even harder. Similar to Blaziken, Lucario is pretty frail, but they doubled down on his aggressive attributes, gaining 22 points of extra speed and a massive 145 attack and 140 special attack, which essentially meant you could run Lucario as a mixed attacker. The positives continued, as now he has even stronger with adaptability Bullet Punch, which made him an even better Pokemon for revenge killing. Adaptability Close Combat, he could even run Flash Cannon or Aura Sphere for special attack coverage, to make Lucario difficult to predict on which set he's truly using. And he has Swords Dance, he has Nasty Plot, which meant he sort of is similar to Mega Blaziken in a way, where he was a beast at late game sweeping. Adaptability really pushed this Mega Evolution over the edge for a lot of people and made him hard to hit, and he doubled down on his close combat, being the equivalent of getting hit by an explosion. Mega Gengar was a really silly mon because he had the ability called Shadow Tag, which if you're living under a rock, Shadow Tag essentially meant you couldn't switch out if the opponent brought in Mega Gengar, unless they're obviously a ghost type. And if you know anything about this ability in Pokemon, most Pokemon with Shadow Tag instantly get banned. Yes, that's why Wobbuffet and Wynut have been banned. Because Shadow Tag is one of the best tools at trapping in the game, and it literally means you cannot switch out. And if Gengar counters your mon, you're most likely dead. And this thing has 170 special attack, 130 speed, so it could safely revenge kill him, and it had its power to kill things like Wynut could. The thing that made Mega Gengar different than the other Shadow Tag users was Gengar was actually stronger. I mean, this is the opposite of the Shadow Tag users, which were a lot weaker. Gengar was just a really solid mon with better stats. He could use Perish Song. If the opponent couldn't switch out, they were going to faint. And because essentially Gengar forces you not to switch out, this meant, yeah, Gengar is going to force you to faint. He also could beat Stall by simply switching in and using Perish Song. And this is easily the biggest reason why he was banned, because it took down all of OU's most common walls. He had Destiny Bond too. This was also even a very similar strategy where you bait the opponent to attack, they would just lose for trying to give it a shot. People were trying to debate if Mega Gengar fainted before he Mega Evolved and truly didn't get to use Shadow Tag until a turn later. This meant that Mega Gengar wasn't as broken as people were making him seem to be. You essentially only have a small window to really take down Mega Gengar, or else you most likely are going to lose, which is why he ended up being banned. Now this is by far one of the most broken mons in this video. I don't even know why they ever experimented with this mon not being in Ubers right away. It was really not fun to battle in my opinion, because this Pokemon was super good. Mega Kangaskhan, yeah, there was a time period where it wasn't even banned, and on paper you might think, why? Well, Kangaskhan on their own is not a good Pokemon. They're an NU mon. You rarely are going to see them being a very average normal type Pokemon. However, under a Mega Evolution, they became one of the best in the game. Simply put, Mega Kangaskhan has access to a new ability called Parental Bond, which meant Mega Kangaskhan will hit twice every time it attacks, and I'm sure you can imagine how broken this thing can truly become if you look at its move pool. Now obviously they must have tried to nerf it in some way by making its second attack deal only half the damage, but this doesn't stop it from being overkill. This meant you were going to get hit by a double fake out, a double body slam, a double crunch, and probably even the most broken moves that he could use is double power punch, which, yes, increased his attack every single time that he hit, which would mean Mega Kangaskhan would immediately get +2 on hit from a power punch and could potentially sweep the team. It's basically Kangaskhan with a choice band every single time, except this time they don't have the negative of being stuck in one move. Sucker Punch was also annoying for people trying to outspeed Mega Kangaskhan. He could beat them with this. You had to run very specific sets to try to counter this thing, like running Mons with Rough Skin or Iron Barbs or Rocky Helmet, as these elements would wear down Mega Kangaskhan bit by bit. But this was a very specific thing that you would have to run in order to counter this thing, and that would easily lead to this mon being banned, thankfully. I really hated facing Mega Kangaskhan. I don't know why they let it run around for as long as it did. I remember facing it in the glory days. I don't want to go back. Another Mega Pokemon that was a rather trash Pokemon, and with a Mega Evolution they become a demon. Similar to Kangaskhan, Mawile is pretty trash. Being a PU Pokemon, it is clearly not viable at all, as it has terrible stats, and it truly relies on a Mega Evolution to become a demon. Once it Mega Evolves, it will gain a beefy 105 attack, 125 defense, and special defense, giving it some decent bulk. And I'm missing out on the big reason here is it had huge power, which doubled this Pokemon's attack and made it even better. It gave it the highest attack stat in the whole game. Not only that, but it had access to a very good typing, especially in Generation 6, where Fairy typing was really strong and Steel was a great resistance. And Mega Mawile's bulk wasn't too bad either, so essentially you could run this as an all-out attacker or play a more bulkier tank set. You're mostly going to get hit with a Stab Iron Head, Play Rough, Sucker Punch, or you could, try to run and work around this thing with its terrible speed, but it's pretty obvious to see why this thing was banned, because anything that tried to take advantage of its weaknesses, it had many ways of working around it, and it just hit way too hard. People would try to defend the mon's weaknesses to fire and ground type attacks and try not to get it banned, but this was not the case. This thing was likely going to kill anything that tries to get the jump on it because of Sucker Punch, and it just hit way too hard, and it's an easy Ubers mon right here. Mega Charizard. Now these two things might not be the most broken mons in this video, but they were definitely really prevalent in the meta of OU, and it made them really annoying to fight against because they were very common. A little bit of favoritism, I guess. The Game Freak gave Charizard 2 Mega Evolutions. Now both of these mons were mainstays in OU. Mega Charizard X was obviously becoming a Fire Dragon type with a massive amount of attack and special attack with decent defenses. Charizard X was the best Dragon Dancer in the tier, now being able to Dragon Dance and actually take advantage of Stab Dragon moves. And they could spam Dragon Claw, Flare Blitz, and even use Roost to try to survive. With Tough Claws, any contact move will be multiplied by 1.3, was super good at building momentum and sweeping, and it had decent bulk, made it difficult to truly try to kill it, as it was one of the best mons in the tier. Charizard Y was sort of the opposite in a way, mainly being a special attacker with 159 special attack. Zard Y did have some things going for it, especially in Sun teams. This would actually complement the Sun weather perfectly, as Drought would come out. It could use its bulk to survive as long as possible. And since Drought was an ability to set up Sun and spam Solar Beam on any incoming ground or water types, these two mons were seen very commonly in this tier. My personal favorite pseudo-legendary of all time is, you can tell I'm a Gen 3 fanboy here, is Mega Salamence. Now, it might not look too broken on paper. It has the ability Intimidate and Moxie for Aerial Aid. Salamence's moves become flying type moves. What a strange ability to give the mon, but I'm not gonna lie, I remember when this Pokemon initially was revealed, people thought Mega Salamence was gonna be bad with this type of ability, losing Intimidate more specifically, but this sort of worked in his favor a lot, since Aerial Aid Salamence was actually a lot better than people thought. First of all, Salamence was already a well-known OU monster. Mega Salamence had incredible stat boosts, even gaining some decent amounts of bulk, a 145 attack with a solid base 120 speed. His spread was really well, unlike some Megas who tended to be more lopsided with their stat growths, and because Mega Salamence gains Aerial Aid after they Mega, that means he technically still has his base ability until he obviously Mega. That meant he could be safe to bring him in with Intimidate and then Mega Evolve, and then you could wreck house with Aerial Aid, as Intimidate could potentially force a switch because it's lowering the opponent's attack. And I'm sure you're getting to the point here. This leaves for an easy opportunity for Ments to set up Dragon Dance and then go for potential sweeps with Double Edge as a really powerful move with Aerial Aid, as obviously this move would become a flying type move. Slap on Earthquake, Dragon Claw, Roost. Some of you might be thinking, oh, why is he Ubers though? Well, you might notice he does have a weird set in Ubers being Refresh. Roost was a set that people actually ran. Mega Salamence was actually really bulky, and this actually benefited him because he technically could spam Roost and then also use Refresh when an opponent tried to Status Inflict or Burn. Combine that with his just already insane ability, this easily meant he was going to probably be Ubers, and he did. Salamence was bulky enough to not really care that much about the potential weaknesses to Stealth Rock and Ice, for example, but if your team easily covered these options and saved Ments for later, you could easily do a lot of work with this. For fun, I decided to cap this off with the most broken Mega Pokemon by far, and even the base Pokemon was broken enough, but this simply doubled down on how busted they truly were. This mon was so broken they had to be put in the anything goes meta, as this was too broken for the Ubers tier. It has a 180 attack and special attack, plenty of bulk in its defenses and HP, a decent amount of speed. We're talking about Mega Rayquaza. It's pretty easy to see why if you just look at its stats. Delta Stream removed the weaknesses to flying type Pokemon, and the weather stays in effect until it's changed by Kyogre or Groudon's primal forms. This mon was super good at building momentum with Dragon Dance because it pretty much having no weaknesses and its strong ways of revenge killing with extreme speed and coverage with V-Create and Earthquake. The move that pushes it even further and it's off the ledge was Dragon Ascent, which was a 120 base power flying type move, and this thing was a silly powerhouse because it's a decent move pool and it could cover a lot of its weaknesses, and it was one of the hardest mons to ever beat in Ubers. Because of it being a late game sweeper, and thankfully it would be forced in its own tier, one of the few Pokemon to ever be forced out of Ubers, it was that broken. And a funny little fact, Mewtwo had 2 Mega Evolutions. One of them was kind of mediocre. The other one was definitely a lot better than. Funny fact, they were both put in Ubers no matter what. And the other day, it's still, you're giving a Mega Evolution to Mewtwo, but thought I would give an honorable mention to the favoritism that he got. Anyways, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. There's a Patreon down below if you guys want to support the content anyway. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Thank you. Peace.